Hi everyone, this is Jono, sitting here in the Carta studio, which is still being set up. I just wanted to share a few overall thoughts on the XFX3. Got this thing a couple of days ago. Before I go on, of course, the usual caveat. I ain't a professional videographer. This is going to be a bit shaky and rubbish, and the sound's not going to be as good as you might expect. That's because I'm filming on my phone right now. This might get better in the future, but I don't make, YouTube videos for a living. I'm not looking to release a music video of me doing my unique dancing style in some South Korean town somewhere. It's just me basically talking to a camera, or more specifically talking to a phone camera. Anyway, I just wanted to kind of share a few thoughts about this. I've already put a couple of videos online of how to create a preset with this thing and how the tuner works, and people seem to be wanting to see it a little bit more because people are still, not many people have got these yet. I signed up pretty early on the wait list and I got one through, but there's a high demand and a limited supply for these. So I know a lot of you are kind of nerding out on these videos to kind of get a sense of it. So as a tiny bit of background, I had an XFX2 XL Plus. I've been using modeling for years with Line 6 amps. I used to play a Mizubuki Triaxis and a Simulclass 290 years back, but I got tired of driving to shows and every time I went over a bump worrying if the tubes were going to have broken. I get to a show and either I don't have any tubes or my spare set is dud. So I moved over to modeling amps. I was reasonably happy with the Line 6 amps, but as I've learned more about tone, they've become ultimately unsatisfying, and particularly Marshall style amps where there's a lot of feel to a Marshall amp which you just don't get in a lot of the modeled amps. I heard about the XFX because I saw Metallica carried them around in their rig, so I plunked down some money, got one to see what it was like, and was blown away. The XFX2 was awesome. So when they brought the XFX3 out, it was just a given I was going to get one, no doubt about it. This thing is about 4 times more powerful. It's got a absolute shit ton of cabs in there. It's got about the same number of amps, but it's got like 2,500, cab IRs. It's got a bunch of ins and outs. I'll let you go and look at the specs yourself. If you're watching this, you probably already know the specs and you just want to learn a little bit more about it. But yeah, really impressed with it so far. So here it is. It's next to me. Hang on. Oop. See, this is not, this is not a Quentin Tarentino movie. So this thing, first of all, is rock solid. Like it's, it's got the usual kind of build quality of of a Fractal product. It's got this beautiful color screen here, which I was a little bit concerned was going to be much better than the previous one. The previous one had this kind of like 80s style green screen, which I basically never used. I only ever used Axe Edit, which is their application for making presets. Axe Edit isn't currently out yet for the XFX3, so I've been pretty much forced into using this, and it's brilliant. It's it is relatively straightforward to use. It's responsive. Everything's in there. There's no limitations on what you can do on the screen. I've been really impressed. Fractal have basically built this thing from the ground up. Like they've effectively rebuilt the platform, and they've done a really nice job. It feels like a really mature, rock-solid product, which is what I expect from Fractal. These buttons feel they feel chunky, and nothing on this feels plasticky whatsoever. And yeah, it's bigger. It's 1U bigger. But it's also way lighter than I was expecting. But it doesn't feel cheap. It feels substantial. A lot of people were complaining about the size of it, but in my mind, it's I don't really care whether it's 2 or 3U. I care more about the weight, particularly if you're going to be carrying it between shows. But for me, I'm primarily going to be probably keeping this in my studio, unless I put together a Carta live band, which is might do. Don't know. We'll see what happens. But yeah, its build quality is awesome. Yeah, it's got a bunch of these ins and outs. You can configure your patches so the ins and the outs are now blocks. So you can come up with all kinds of interesting routing scenarios. One of the things I dig about this is, for example, you could have multiple guitarists going through their own signal chains if you want to. So that's brilliant for me because I want to have people over here to jam, and I don't want me to be going through the nice XFX3 and someone else going through the crappy amp in the corner of the room. I've heard that you might even be able to have 2 guitars and a bass running at the same time. The audio quality, which is the most important thing, it sounds crisper to me and it sounds a bit cleaner. The reverbs sound richer, but the modeling sounds relatively similar. One of the things though, this is not massively surprising because Fractal, one of the things I love about Fractal is you buy a unit and they put out tons of firmware updates. Like the AXFX 2 had something like 20 firmware updates that went out. And you know, they had a significant one, which was their quantum modeling, and they pushed that out as a free update. They didn't do what a lot of companies would do, which is try and stick it into a new hardware product and sell it to you. That's one of the reasons why there's such a fanatical fan base wrapped around Fractal Audio. I actually wrote a blog post about this on my blog at johnobacon.com, which you can go and check out, about why I think this is pretty powerful. So the modeling today sounds relatively similar, but bear in mind that this thing is an order of magnitude more powerful than the AXFX 2, and they're obviously going to take care, like harness that horsepower in releases to come. So while it might sound relatively similar today, this really is just the start of the journey, I think. You know, their new modeling technology is called Ares, and you know, part of the excitement for me is that, you know, I've got this, it's in my rack now, and now it's just a matter of time for like waiting for the updates to come. It's like it's Christmas every time one of these updates comes, because it usually adds more amps, better clarity, more controls, this, that, and the other. There are some noticeable changes, like there's a ton of cabs in there, a ton of cab IRs. There's been some effect changes. The pitch shifter sounds way better to me than the previous one. You can have like these live harmonies, which is pretty cool. The tri-chorus is really good. There's a bunch of other kind of like adjustments and improvements on a bunch of the... I'm holding my arm now because the selfie stick isn't working. You know, it's as to be expected. It's a pretty comprehensive piece of kit, and a very impressive kind of first release, given the fact that it's just come out. If you are the kind of person who utilizes or would like to utilize a rich range of tones, whether you're recording or playing live, like if you're a death metal player and you basically have like the same tone and then just a raised solo tone with a bit of delay and reverb, you don't need one of these things. But if you want to, like I write songs, for example, I'm working on one song which has got, you know, a lighter martial tone at the beginning, then it gets a little bit heavier, then it comes in with kind of more of a European kind of Engel kind of grind tone, and then there's some solos over the top. You know, for the new Baron Carter album, you know, there's some clean tones that I'm using in there. It really is like having so many tools at your disposal, and it's awesome in that regard. And of course, it gets better and better and better and better. So, you know, I think if that's your kind of interest, you don't necessarily have to be like, I'm not a tone nerd. I'm not a gearhead, but I like having real high def, high quality tones at my disposal, and that's what I love about this. And then the Axe Exchange, which is where people share their patches, you can get some amazing patches on there which help you to get started on it as well. So yeah, so overall, very impressed. My only gripe that I shared previously was that it didn't come with a printed manual, but Cliff, who is kind of head honcho at Fractal, said they stopped doing printed manuals for environmental reasons, which seems reasonable to me. I would have liked to have had one, but you know what? I can print one out myself. There's a PDF, so no big deal there. But yeah, rock solid. The only real downer that I've had so far is that I'm having some problems with the Windows 10 driver. I can't quite get it to work, because a big chunk of the value of this is you can hook it up via USB, and then it acts as essentially a audio interface. And the inputs and outputs are hardwired, so it makes it really easy, for example, for reamping. So you can record an album, record the dry signal, and then go and play the track in context, and then be able to tune it in Axe Edit or on the front of the unit, and get exactly the kind of tone that you want in the mix, which is really cool. That's exactly what I want. Since I've plugged it in with USB, I've been getting all kinds of erratic issues. It's worked fine on a Mac, and it suggests that it's probably a Windows 10 driver issue. I've shared that on the Fractal forum, so hopefully this will be resolved. It may be, you know, an issue with my configuration, but I don't think it is. I've done quite a bit of... One of the benefits of working in kind of technology for so long is that it teaches you how to debug, and I've done a reasonable amount of debug, and I don't think it's the unit. I think it must be something to do with the driver. But you know what? That's software. Software can get better. It can be fixed. If it was a hardware issue, I'd be a lot more concerned, but I don't see any hardware issues there. So yeah, pretty killer stuff. Stay tuned to the Baron Carta YouTube channel. I can't believe I'm saying this, but give me a like and subscribe. No, you don't have to like this. If you think it sucks, that's fine. I'm not desperate for likes. But yeah, there'll be more of this, and everything you'll hear on the new album is going to be, all the guitars and the bass will be going through this thing. So Great work, Fractal Audio Systems. Big shout out to the Fractal Audio Forum. You know, good people there. And see you on the other side. Bye.